Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
And I listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Indeed, you are people who listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, and welcome to another special edition, episode, conversation, call it what you may. My name is Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Santoki unfortunately can't be here today. He will be back for the next particular episode, but this is me on my ones today. And if you're a keen listener to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you'll know that we've spent the last few weeks or so talking about the Cool and Smooth T20 that is currently ongoing in Antigua. If you're not watching Cool and Smooth T20, then what are you doing? And if you haven't yet watched any of Cool and Smooth T20, make sure that after this episode, you head to all the various channels and make sure you keep up with the tournament in terms of what's going on, the players involved, and so on and so forth. And I'm excited actually because we've got a player on. We've got a player on today. We're in day 4 of the tournament thus far. You could call it the end of the first week of the tournament. And I'm excited to announce that the guest we've got on today is Karima Gore, one of the key players in the Liberta Blackhawks, the defending champions. They're unbeaten thus far in the competition at the time of recording. They've won 2 from 2. They do play later against New Winthrop Lions, so they may be 3 from 3, who knows. But certainly when we talk about Cool and Smooth T20, you have to talk about the Liberta Blackhawks. They are more than often than not the team to beat. They're stacked with a fantastic cricketing talent. And like I say, I'm excited to get one of their top players on today, and that being Karima Gore. So without any further ado, let me bring on the man himself. Karima, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you so much for giving up some of your time, And what I'm going to do, Karima, I'm going to jump into it straight away, because I always say with the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you never know who's listening, where they're listening from, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to hand to you first. For someone who's never come across Karima Gore before, how would you describe yourself as a cricketer?
A cricketer, a very energetic person on the field, confident in his skills, and more like quiet and humble.
Now, that's interesting because I'm going to add to it then. An all-rounder, and the reason why I'm going to add that in there is because I want to hear it from you yourself. What's your primary suit, Karima? Are you a batting all-rounder, a bowling all-rounder, a triple threat because you're a really good fielder? What do you see as your best suit on the cricket field, or do you think they're all equal?
Well, to be honest, I more enjoy batting, but I more think I'm more of a triple threat.
Yeah, I read an article the other day which said that you are one of the best fielders in fact, I was about to say within the United States, but just within, let's call it within the Caribbean itself. So if we just touch on that in terms of fielding, is that something you take specific pride in, or is that just natural ability?
It's a lot of pride because, like, if you misfield a ball, you may feel down, and if you drop a catch. So more time, I just say any ball that's coming to me, I'm going to collect it. Any catch that's coming, I'm going to try my best. Once it can touch my fingers, I can hold on.
You grew up in the States, so out of interest, is any of that fielding ability related to other sports that I don't know, I'm asking you, I genuinely don't know this. Is that related to any other sports you may or may not have played coming up through school system, college system, etc.?
I really grew up in Antigua. I was in Antigua, really. I tried football at a younger age, and I tried swimming also. So I don't really think that feeling really contributed within other sports.
So that means then it's just you and your personal your personal dedication to just honing your craft within the field itself.
Yes.
100%. And actually, if we touch on the growing up in Antigua, then, because that will answer the question. And my apologies, I should have known that, to be fair. But at the moment, you've broken into, in the last, let's say, I'd say really in the last year, although I know obviously you represented the Leeward Islands just prior to the pandemic, but certainly in the last year or so, I would say that you've I don't know if you'd go as far as saying cemented, but you're definitely part of what I would call the main core of the current Leeward Islands side, both in white ball and in red ball cricket. And is that something that you had been setting your sights on in terms of this year and going forward, in trying to make yourself kind of undroppable within the Leeward Islands franchise?
Well, yeah, that's the plan. My grandmother always told me, once you get 1 foot in, you can step right in. So that's always the plan.
So I've got to give you the difficult question then. say you continue to put in some stellar performances, Leeward Islands wise, and let's go down T20. Let's go down T20, because that's what you're playing right now. You're playing Cool and Smooth T20. So let's say off the back of Cool and Smooth, off the back of some Super 50 performances for Leeward Islands. Let's say, I'm being hypothetical here. Let's say you get a CPL contract, could be this year, could be next year, whenever. What happens then if West Indies come calling at some point?
Well, I'm contracted with the Leeward Islands, and if West Indies come calling at some point, I will be proud and confident to represent the West Indies.
I hear you. Well, boy, listen, West Indies, you heard it there first. You heard it there first. If Karima puts in those performances for those who are invested in and have the kind of the keys over selection, you heard it there first from Karima. But Karima, talk me through I mean, like I say, this year, in the last year, I should say, you've had the Super 50 experience with Leeward Islands, and you had the West Indies, the Red Ball Championship that just concluded this year with the Leeward Islands. How have you found that in general, in terms of that experience on the domestic scene?
I can start with the red ball at first. It's been maybe 2.5 years since I've actually played red ball cricket, so it's just getting back used to watching a lot of balls and, spending time at the wicket. I've been playing white ball cricket, which is T20 and 50 overs for some time now. I think it's just about understanding myself and understanding my game and my strengths and where I can improve.
Is what would you say because I mean, if we relate it to, let's look at the white ball, like I say, if we relate it to your exploits in T20, I mean, last year you were the MVP in the Cool and Smooth, if I'm not mistaken. And this year you've started pretty much, you've carried on from what you were doing the year before. I think in the last match you hit 57 of 32 against Bolans Blasters. I think you did. What is the skill set that you are trying to maximize? Because you haven't bowled as much thus far, actually, in this year's Cool and Smooth, and I've been surprised about that. Is that because you are focusing more so on the batting, or is there an injury you're carrying with regards to bowling?
I have a slight wrist injury from first class game, which
right.
not only wrist but a joint in my hand. So it really feels uncomfortable for me to hold the ball as normal as I would do. So it feels uncomfortable releasing the ball, which it hurts when I release the ball. So the guys, we have a lot of spinners in the Blackhawks, so the guys told me I can just relax off the bowling for a little bit and I'll be called upon if I'm needed.
I mean, and that kind of fits with what you said at the top of the show, in so much as you would call yourself, or I think you said at the top that batting's the thing that you really see yourself as first and foremost. And I noted that in kind of recent Antigua Super 40 and in the 2-day competition, you've been stacking up the runs. Have you been putting specific work in with regards to the batting over the last year and a bit? Is that something you're really trying to turn people's heads with, the not just how you make your runs, but the amount of runs you're making?
I don't really think it's about like turning heads. I think it's a personal goal for me to be satisfied at where I'm at with the bat. Still, same thing with feeling and the same thing with bowling also. It's a personal satisfaction to understand where I'm at and where I can go in those three departments.
And what would you say in the, and you may say this will differ according to the formats, and I'm thinking about where you batted in the Red Bull Championship for Leeward Islands versus where you might bat in T20, etc., Super 50. What's your preferred position? If it was up to you and you were selecting whatever team you're in, would you bat? Are you a number 4 or would you bat higher? What or does it depend on the format?
I really see myself from maybe number 3 or number 4 to 6. I've bat in a lot of positions in different teams, so understanding what is needed at a certain position, maybe at a certain point in the game, I may already experience. So it may not be new if I bat at 9 or 11, pertaining to 3 or 5.
And actually, if for those who don't know, earlier on this year, you and Kofi James put on that partnership together. I think that was the one where Kofi made his century. You made a 93. I think it was that partnership, if I'm not mistaken. If I got that wrong, do correct me. But it's where you got the 93. When you made that 93 in the Red Bull Championship, you weren't batting. I don't believe you were batting in the top 5 for that. You may have even been 6 or 7. Correct me again if I've got that wrong. But 6, right. How did, just talking on that particular innings, the 93, because you said it was 2.5 years since you've played some red ball cricket. So how did you go about constructing that particular innings, given you'd been out of that format of cricket for a while?
Well, we had a local tournament between the Leeward Islands, a 3-day tournament that they held within a 3 weeks period. So it helped me to understand my disciplines and what can help me sustain myself within the red ball arena. So leading up to that is a lot of understandings and hitting balls and spending times at the crease. So when I came out at my first go in first class cricket, it was just to remain disciplined and play what I know.
So just play it as you see it, not overcomplicating the game.
Yeah, not overcomplicating and just being free.
I hear you. So briefly pivoting back to Cool and Smooth, how's the tournament been for you thus far? Like I said at the top of the show, Liberta Blackhawks undefeated thus far, 2 from 2, champions last year. Always a big contender. Obviously, the plan again for the franchises to try and win again this year. But how has the tournament gone for you thus far? You on a personal level?
I think it's just a start, so I can't really say much on it. But for me, I'm feeling real nice within the 2 games so far. Confidence, things are flowing. So it's just a matter of being consistent and continue putting in performances.
And let's say the Blackhawks go on to win the tournament. Let's just say, argument's sake, the Blackhawks go on, they win the tournament again, and let's say you have a stellar tournament. What's your plan? And by this question, Karima, I mean this in like an ideal world. What would your ideal plan be coming out of a successful Cool and Smooth for the remainder of the year? And I'll just mention some stuff, for example. Obviously, there'll be things like CPL draft, minor league draft, so on and so forth. Do you have your eyes on certain prizes and competitions going forward for the remainder of the year?
Firstly, I would look back to see my improvements and see where I have improved and what I can improve on. But yeah, going forward, you have CPL, you have Major League that's coming up. That's very new. Minor League played in last year, so looking forward to these tournaments would be very nice to get a experience with different type of players and more experienced players to see what I can learn.
Indeed. Will that also involve playing some more? Will you also be playing some more domestic cricket within Antigua itself?
Yes, for sure. After Cool and Smooth, I will be playing local cricket for some time.
Mm-mm. So, with because some people want to know within the Blackhawks itself, because you've been part of the franchise for a while, what makes them so successful? I mean, I've spoken to tournament organizer Daryl Bartley about this many a time, but from a player's perspective, what makes the franchise tick so well?
Well, I don't really think it's a franchise. It's a club that I've grown up in. Even my father was a part of the club, and he's still a part of the club.
Mm,
So it's a club that where I've grown with these guys. Well, most of these guys, like you have Raheem Cornwall and Hayden was junior. I've been around them even before they started playing first class cricket. So I
mm,
was running around. I couldn't really hold a bat because the bats were too heavy.
yeah.
So now coming up and these guys play international cricket and playing with these guys, you get to learn a lot throughout the years.
Mm,
And we build like a bond. It's not just cricket.
yeah.
Like when there's no cricket going on, these guys would call you and be like, "Yo, what's going on with you? You good?"
Mm.
So it's not just cricket. It's more like a lifetime bond that most of these guys have. That we don't really call ourselves friends. It's more of a family, Blackhawks family.
I hear you. So almost like a so it's not a team, it's a brotherhood. Is that that's what you're saying in essence?
Well, you can put it as that. Like anybody that really comes and join us, they don't really leave because we
Yeah.
have such a tight bond, and we treat everybody that join us as a brother or family.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
Even our part of the Blackhawks, and they're like sisters.
Yeah. I hear that, and that's a really good insight to again for what will be some of the international listeners to this platform and people who aren't familiar with Antigua cricket. Never mind wider Leeward Islands cricket, but Antigua cricket, that helps them understand what the kind of club format is all about. And I'm glad that you kind of emphasize it's a club, not a franchise. In so much as understanding the ethos, but behind why Liberta are so successful as they are. Earlier on, I said that you're playing later today. You've got New Winthorpe Lions. Is there is the team is the team when they approach these games within Cool and Smooth, are you approaching it in terms of different particular tactics for particular sides, or is it more that Black Hawks focus on this is what we do, this is what we're good at, everybody go and execute their particular skill set, take care of yourselves, and you fancy yourselves to win, or do you set up according to your position?
So we have quality coaches, like Will and Cornwall, Kenny Benjamin, and then
Mm,
you have senior players which are Raheem and Hayden. So
yeah.
those guys will take the forefront and be like, okay, you have this specific player that we need to watch. Here's where you can bowl him. You know, be very tactical about those things. But then we still go and play hard cricket. Don't take no one for granted. Keep it simple. And there's three departments that we try to win at all times. So it's
Mm,
not just I'm blasting out somebody and scoring maybe 250 and just relax.
mm,
Because you can bowl well but feel very poor and still lose.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
departments that we try to win at all times, and we try to keep them as simple as possible.
Yes, yes, I understand. This year's competition is much longer than last year's one. I think last year's, I think everyone played 3, 4, maybe 5 games if you ended up as champions. This year's one, there's a much wider or longer, I should say, kind of league system before going into the knockouts and so on and so forth. Does that change anything, or is it just a case of you still just got to take each game as it comes? Execute the game plan and so on and so forth? Or is it that the players are really looking forward to having more game time in this year's Cool and Smooth?
I think other players are looking forward to having more game time, but at the same time, we still take each game as it comes. So we're
Mm,
not worried about what if we're playing Tuesday or Wednesday. We're worrying about the game tonight, and once that's taken care of, we go over the game, and then we move on to the next.
and just finally, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, because you have to go and get ready and prep and so on and so forth for the game tonight. But without for those who are watching this who don't know Antigua cricket, right, and who are, so prior to the tournament, when I spoke to Dario, we spoke about the Blackhawks, and I said to Dario, if people don't know about Kofi James, obviously Dario knows all these players. And I was speaking to our international audience and saying I suggest people look very closely at Kofi James, and Dario called your name and said the name that I would suggest people should watch in this tournament is somebody like a Karima Gore and so on and so forth. But from your perspective as a player, are there any players, and potentially you're young yourself, but any young players where you would say to our audience, listen, look out for so-and-so who we may not know about, and that includes myself, who you would say, listen, this player is a serious talent, and I suggest people look out for them because you think there's big things coming?
To be honest, we have so many names in Antigua, so it can't really like pinpoint like one that maybe stands out above. You understand? And it's not a point where the person is being consistent above everybody else and, you know, standing out by themselves. So I honestly think that if you're looking for the talent, you should tune in and watch it Cool and Smooth, and you will definitely see what you.
Listen, people, Karima just did my pitch, you know. Karima's 100% correct. You want to know the talent, people. Karima's not going to tell you. You got to tune in. And that starts with, we're recording right now, but that starts with later tonight. Currently, as Karima and I are recording, Jennings Tigers are playing All Saints Pythons. But later on tonight, on Sunday, you've got Pigots Crushers versus Bolans Blasters. And then Karima's team himself, Liberta Blackhawks versus the new Winthrop Lions, which is later on tonight as well. So as Karima correctly points out, you want to know the talent, you got to tune in. But what we are saying here on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, if Karima won't say it himself, there are some exceptionally talented players playing in this year's Cool and Smooth. And we're talking about West Indian talent. This is a West Indian podcast first and foremost. Karima's one of them. That's why I wanted to touch base with Karima as our kind of first guest on this particular in this particular tournament. Like I said throughout the show, he's making waves within our domestic scene. Cool and Smooth's the place to kind of to catch some of these performances as well from Karima. But Karima, I'll give you the last words. Any last words, Karima, before I let you go prep and get ready for tonight?
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it, and just tune in and watch it Cool and Smooth, and hope you have fun.
No worries, Karima. Listen, thank you so much for giving up your time. I'm gonna let you go and go and get ready and do your business. I'll be watching later tonight. Those who want to know more about the Cool and Smooth tournament, of course, stay locked into the Cool and Smooth handles on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. All the links are out there to watch all of the games. And as Karima says, people, lock in. Karima, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
No worries. That's been Karima Gore, people, checking in with us about what? That's about, at the time of recording, it's about 5 hours away before the Blackhawks play their game later tonight. Thank you so much to Karima for coming on. What we're going to be doing throughout this tournament is touching base with some of the exciting local talent, some of the international players, some of the legends involved in the tournament as well. If you'd like us to speak to any particular player, just let us know, send in, DM us or whatever it might be, send us a message, Twitter, Instagram, at Carib Cricket, let us know and we'll try and get them on. But as I said, Karima Gore, super exciting talent. Obviously, some of you listening to this, watching this, will know about him through his exploits for USA Cricket as well. But here, and that's when I say here, I mean here within the Caribbean and the kind of wider Caribbean diaspora, we see Karima Gore as somebody who can certainly make waves within West Indies cricket as well. So do get watching Cool and Smooth later tonight and throughout the rest of the tournament. It's going on until the 29th of April. If you haven't watched any games yet, people, make sure you lock in. I'll put all of the links and descriptors in the video below and so on and so forth. Thank you as ever for watching another small edition episode of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'll be Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.